Yeah, I mean, I think one thought to add to that is that when we've been thinking about how to, present the story and message the film, we've always kind of tended towards, rather than trying to say that anything's wrong or that anything is negative, we've really been focusing on sort of like that there's this really awesome, interesting alternative that's interesting for all these different reasons, from a design perspective and from a creative perspective, and and really kind of just focusing on that, because we feel like if we can get people engaged on that level rather than trying to like pick apart anyone's life and say that it's wrong, I mean, we don't really want to spend time doing that or go there. So
but it is an interesting balance, because at least for me, because I totally agree with everything Merete said, but I also I feel like in order to be a real to make a difference, you almost have to be a challenging, provocative kind of filmmaker in a way, because you don't want to try to refrain from alienating people so much that you're not actually saying anything. And so it's an interesting balance to an interesting line to walk, and it's hard to find a balance sometimes of just how far to push it without pushing it too far. That it's saying like, there is something wrong with society, not necessarily you, but maybe the way that like we're doing things as a whole, or something like that, and to say that in a way that's not threatening and not judgmental and accusatory, especially to individuals, but to still challenge people to think differently about what's possible.
So for the film, in keeping with that, have you tried to just really keep it to your own personal story so that people don't feel like you're being too preachy with it? Is that how you've tried to hone in your message?
Yeah, and I think, in interviewing all these different people who have gone through the process of downsizing for different reasons, that those issues come up. I think organically from, people talk about how they were in debt because they, they felt like they had to live one kind of lifestyle and they realized they didn't. And so I think, the issues are coming out of the stories of the people that we're profiling and out of our story, without having to do too much sort of like, sort of like generalizing or things like that.
Definitely, and I think part of the move to expanding the film into a feature length is because we wanted to devote some time to being critical, actually, of the tiny house movement, and critical of our own story in a way that makes it more, complexifies it more. So we're not trying to sell this simple idea and say, oh yeah, it's totally possible for everybody to live this way, and there's no problems with it, and it's your fault for not doing it, without being realistic about, like many people who live in tiny houses do so because they come from a place of privilege. They have the ability to choose, where they live or how they live. There are plenty of criticisms about the tiny house movement that are worth bringing up and addressing. And so I think maybe by expanding into a feature and doing that, people won't feel like we haven't done our due diligence, and we're just kind of shooting from the hip and attacking without really thinking about it and being thinking critically about the issue.